Okay, so here we are in Struggle of Empires. This is the beginning of the Second War. I kind of forgot at the end of the last turn to do this. I moved all the population up. Now people have enough population. They probably don't want to build huge armies. Remember, some people almost want, were losing money due to the armies they were building, and if you end up taking enough unrest, you just lose the game. So building up a huge force without the economy to support it is just a bad move, I think. Given that starts opening up some of these counters, like the industry one that scores you victory points, or the logistics that gives you extra movement, and you exchange population for these advantages. That becomes somewhat more interesting at this point in the game than it was, say, in the First War. All right, but the first thing we do is we pull some new country chits. We're going to get 10 of these. 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 9, 10. When we start playing them, East Indies, a nice little target there. And a colonization possibility there. Over here in the Baltic, some more. The German states. And one of the problems maybe that I had is I don't know what these counters are going to be in terms of a counter mix. So some of my decisions may not have been so wise. We see, a lot more Indian power coming into play here. South America a little bit with a slaves advantage that could go to Russia. The Mediterranean gets another one. We have here Ottoman Empire. What does that 1 in a square mean? Gotta look that one up. We haven't had one of those before. What does it matter if a country tile has a 1 in the square? Well, not on the tile descriptions. And unfortunately, these are not terribly easy rules to navigate when you want to find something like that. Is it in the useful information? I don't know. I'm just lucky that I knew what what the number in a circle meant, I think. But what I don't know is what those tiles mean on a country. Colonization, enslavement. I think I'm going to have to take a little break and try to look and see what the hell that means, because I can't waste your time looking at that. But that's definitely a different view than we've had on any of the other tokens that we've seen. Okay, so I have an answer. That's worth a victory point. If you defeat the Ottoman Empire, that's probably sort of their mass, the center of the empire itself. You get a victory point for that in the squares thing. Personally, at this point in the game, I'm not sure that kind of effort, given that nobody's really set up with that kind of power. It's not like Prussia here, which would have a shot at something like that. So now, we're back in the bidding stage. Well, here's the problem. There's only 3 wars, and the bidding proceeds clockwise from who? The player who moved last in the last war goes first this time. So Russia's going to have the first chance to put things up. I'm not going to go through this step by step like I did on the first one, but I will come back and show you what ended up happening. Alliance choices have already been made. I'm going to take a little while to explain, but I'm not going to the agonizing decisions here. The Russians chose France and Prussia, largely so they can go last again. Allows you to make a pick early and then jump in if you need to, if you don't like where you're going to end up at the end. They see that it's more important than the tiles that are available. The tiles seem less important to Russia at this point. And everybody let that pass. And then the next one, the Prussians picked France, and the Netherlands. And Spain jumped in. Actually, they may have picked Spain and the Netherlands? Or no, England and Spain. And Spain didn't like that. So they put the Netherlands in place. The Netherlands was okay with that. So Spain has spent $1 to make that choice. Now it's going to be France's choice first, and we'll see where it goes from there. And France chose to take Russia as an ally, largely because of this location, and picked Spain as their enemy, seeing that the Russians and Spanish could fight. Nobody was terribly opposed to that. Even Russia and Spain kind of liked the idea of getting into a fight down there. Of course, Russia's at a bit of a disadvantage, so maybe they shouldn't have accepted it. But they're looking more to the fact, well, this wasn't decided yet. And this, it was kind of one of the African things they're looking at. Oh, gee, if I'm allied with France against the Dutch, that's kind of cool. And then finally the British chose to keep Austria allied with them, and nobody really objected to that either. So now we've got the choices here, as well as the order of play, and we'll be able to go from there. So here in the first round of the war, France went first, moved them forward. They did two things. They bought the army training for $6, and they had the cash for that. And then they got the bonus for going first, which I kind of forgot about these when I was making my picks. They grabbed the East Indies colony up here. We're able to just spend a population on that and got really an advantage that maybe they shouldn't have, given the way things fell, or given the order that was there. Maybe Russia should have been able to slip in there and get a second place or whatever. Anyway, and certainly Prussia had an interest in it. We'll see how it all works out, though. It's going to put us over to Prussia. Prussia had a money problem, so they picked another East Indies company. It's going to give them more cash. They also used one of these population colonization actions to grab another Indian space. Do they need another Indian space? Probably not. They've got the huge advantage there, but they're keeping everyone else from getting points there. That may not be the best way to secure a win, but they're kind of afraid if somebody else can get a foothold in there. Another option would have been to sail a ship to Africa and try to get the slave bonus. That seemed a little less. See, here's the thing. If they put a guy here and got forces in here, of course, and they could get them with their mercenaries, then they'd end up, probably if they held it, and would they hold it? Hard to tell, because they'd have France and Russia against them. But if they held it, they'd probably end up with the 3 points, because it's very unlikely that somebody's going to get 3 and somebody else, well, it's impossible, but because there's only 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 total. So if somebody had 3 and somebody had 2, they wouldn't have their location anymore. But anyway, taking the India seemed like the safer option at this point, denying other people those points. Okay, so, and it also helped them with their East India companies to maybe get some income forward. Alright, so then we go to England. For the English turn, they grabbed the Baltic Company, which will allow them to get some cash. They've got a lot of alliances set up there with Sweden and Denmark, and then proceeded to use their mercenaries to create another unit, send it into the Baltic area, and made an attack on a 2-point neutral country there. Took that out of play, got themselves another thing there, and they'll be able to get more cash this way. Onto the Dutch. The Dutch grabbed the South American gold mines, triggered some trained natives to get themselves more troops, and attacked the Russian piece there. They won it quite handily with naval support, the Portuguese, etc. They've got a lot of power. And they're making it look a lot less valuable for the Russians to actually activate that slave. They have to use an action to gain it. So it may be that South America is becoming entirely Dutch. And that'll put us on to the Russians. And for the Russian move, they picked up the other Levant company, not so much because of the bonus they're going to get off of it with their 2 territories, although they may get more, but because they're at war with Spain and they're afraid that Spain's going to get too much money off of their holdings from it. That's a big worry at this point. They don't want Spain to be able to just attack with impunity because of their extra cash. They also moved, instead of grabbing those slaves, they moved a navy over into the Mediterranean, increasing their chances of winning a naval battle there. And they tried to move this army. Their navigation bonus saved the unit but didn't get it over into the Ottoman Empire where they wanted to get it. They wanted to see if they could maybe take Spain out of there and sit alone at the +4 spot. And again, trigger the extra money from the Levant company as it comes. Puts it back on Spain. And for Spain's turn, I don't know if they did everything. They triggered the diplomatic service to grab the Native Americans. They're able to take a token. They built an army in the Ottoman Empire, but I haven't taken a token yet. Logistics seems powerful to be able to move 2 units at once, or essentially a 3rd unit instead of just 2, actually. On the other hand, some of these others are pleasing, but they have they cost. But with the banking, it seems like a good deal. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to spend 2 unrest to grab. I'll take this one. I'm going to spend 2 unrest to grab $3, or 1 unrest to grab $3. And I've got kind of a low unrest total, so that's not too bad. I get $1 back, and I get reserves, which will allow me to re-roll a combat roll if I don't like it. Usually you probably don't want to do that unless you have the advantage. You certainly don't want to do it if you're strongly at a disadvantage and you lose a roll, because chances are it's not going to do you any good. But anyway, that's going to put it to Austria for this round. And now for Austria's turn, they took... they also bought a reserves counter. Again, the rerolls seem like they are more to your advantage when you have a slight advantage in the military ability. They then attacked the Spaniards down here and cleared them out of the Caribbean. Not that that was getting the Spaniards anything, but here's what it did. It created a $5 when the sugar plantations got triggered. So now they have $6. They took some unrest for all that. They took 1 point of unrest for the combination of actions, but they feel like it gave them a good position. They can't attack the Russians after all. And now they can try to decide, can I expand somewhere else or defend something else? They didn't want to do the South America slaves because the Dutch are down there and they're just too potent. They know they're going to lose whatever they try to put against them. Alright, so that's the end of this first round of the Second War. Let me all go back into place, and I'll wrap this one up and send it to you.